Hey guys, today I'll be reviewing the anthology film Holidays. Holidays is an anthology film with 8 stories with the theme of, well, you guessed it, holidays. I have a pretty big love for anthologies, films, TV, books. I just like short stories a lot. It's cool to be able to have a whole story in a small, bite sized increments. All of the stories in this movie are pretty good. Some are a little weaker than others, but all in all, they're all pretty unique and enjoyable. The first story is Valentine's Day, written and directed by Kevin Kolsch and Dennis Widmeyer, the duo that brought us Starry Eyes. The story's about this awkward teenager named Maxine, played by Madeline Coughlin. She has a crush on her coach, who's played by Rick Peters, and she's constantly getting bullied by this girl, Heidi, who's played by Savannah Kennick, and the rest of her friends. It ends up her coach has a heart condition and he can't get the donor he needs to get a transplant. And after getting picked on by these girls constantly, the coach sees this, and as a kind gesture, he leaves her a Valentine in her locker, which then leads to some psychotic results. This story is one of my favorites. It was definitely a good one to start off on. They did a good job picking which one to go first. It kind of reminds me of Carrie without the supernatural aspect, uh, but it's definitely worth a watch. It's definitely like in the top three, maybe even the second best of all of these. The next story is St. Patrick's Day, written and directed by Gary Shore, the director of Dracula's Untold. This story was kind of weird, kind of reminded me of a Wicker Man kind of story. So the story takes place in Ireland, where a teacher by the name of Elizabeth, played by Ruth Bradley, is teaching about St. Patrick's Day and how St. Patrick's chased the snakes out of Ireland. She's always wanted to get pregnant, but she hasn't. And shortly after teaching the class, little girl walks up to her and touches her belly. She soon realizes that she might be pregnant, so she goes to the doctor, and the doctor tells her she is pregnant, and she gets really happy about it. But then the doctor starts telling her that the baby's not really human, that it's some sort of animal. But she seems to ignore that and still be happy anyway. And this eventually leads to the true story of St. Patrick's Day and the snakes in Ireland. So this story was really good. It's not one of my favorites, but it's higher up there. It's really interesting. It's strange and at times a bit goofy, but even the goofy parts are kind of humorous. It's kind of nice. All in all, it was a pretty entertaining story. The next story up is Easter, which was written and directed by Nicholas McCarthy, who was the director and writer behind The Pact and At the Devil's Door. The story is about a little girl played by Ava Akers, who wakes up at night on Easter to discover the Easter Bunny in her house. But the Easter Bunny is not what we were taught to believe the Easter Bunny is. He's kind of like this grotesque skin bunny creature with a crown of thorns and a demonic voice. He's really quite scary. I would say this story was good. It's definitely interesting and creepy, but it's just really short. And it would have been much better if there was more to it. The ending's kind of cool, but like I said, it's just really, really short and not much to it. The next story was Mother's Day, written and directed by Sarah Dina Smith, who, as far as I can tell, hasn't really done much else. So the story's about this woman named Kate, played by Stephanie Traub, who can't seem to stop getting pregnant. Every time she has sex, she gets pregnant. And she goes to this clinic to, I guess, to have an abortion. But everybody who goes to this clinic are women who can't have kids. So she's the only one there who can't seem to stop having kids. So this comes to the attention of 3 witches who can't have kids. And they take her to this place and drug her and use her in this ritual to give birth for them. And this leads to some very disastrous results. So, not that this story was terrible, but it's definitely the weakest one. It's not even really short. It's actually kind of long, but it's to me it was just kind of weak. It's took a really long time to lead up to the ending that was the good part of the story. Next up was Father's Day, which was written and directed by Anthony Scott Burns. The only thing I really know him from is that he directed an episode of Darknet. Besides that, he's mostly a visual effects artist. The story is about this woman, Carol, played by Jocelyn Donahue, who you might know from House of the Devil, and she was also in Insidious 2, playing a young Lorraine. She thinks her father's been dead since she was young, but she receives this audio cassette that she puts in a Walkman, and she listens to it. And it's her father telling her to go somewhere and telling her the story that he's alive and he's waiting for her somewhere. Playing her dad's voice is the awesome Michael Gross, who I remember as a little kid from Family Ties, but he's also been in all those Tremors movies, which are pretty good. He leads through the audio cassette. He leads her to this abandoned town, which he actually took her to when she was little, and is actually recording the message while he's walking with her when she was a little girl, so she can hear herself as a little girl, but she doesn't remember this very much. So she's just following the tape, leading her to where her father is to discover where he's been this whole time and what he is. This one was my favorite of all the stories. It is kind of slow because it takes a while. You know, she's just listening to the cassette, walking through an abandoned town, and it takes a little while to get to it, and it's not like really great until the very end, and you discover what's going on. But it's just a very interesting story and a great build up. It takes a while to get to it, but you're just dying to know what's at the end, what's at this goal, what's she gonna find her father, and what's it gonna be like. The next story is Halloween, written and directed by Kevin Smith, who we all know. Lately, he's been doing a lot of horror, like Red State, Tusk, and now Yoga Hosers. The story starts with this guy named Ian, played by Harley Morenstein, who you might know from the YouTube channel Epic Mealtime. He basically calls girls and has them fly to California to do webcam chats with men and get paid for it, you know, talking about sexual things and stuff. And he promises them that they're going to make tons of money and he's going to treat them good and stuff. So when it gets back to his place, we discover that he already has 3 girls working for him, living in this small apartment. And he basically treats them like crap. These girls are treated by crap by men over the webcam, and they're sad about it, and they want to have Halloween off to have a good time. But he doesn't let them because he's an asshole, basically. So the main girl of the 3 girls is played by Harley Quinn Smith, Kevin Smith's daughter. And she's basically like the tough one and is sick of this guy's shit. And unites the 3 girls and basically says that 3 girls are a coven and that they're witches. And, you know, he laughs about it. But eventually they capture him and put him on a webcam hidden in a very disastrous way, and humiliate him and cause him utter pain and basically torture him. This story was really good. The acting wasn't all that great, but the story itself was definitely one of my favorites. It's disturbing. There's torture. It's a great revenge story. It's definitely worth it. The next story is Christmas, and that's written and directed by Scott Stewart, the writer and director behind Legion and Dark Skies, and he also directed Priest. So the story's about this guy named Pete, played by Seth Green, who he called ahead to a store to get the very last of this specific toy. It's kind of like a VR headset thing, but it shows you your inner self, or what's in your mind. It's kind of crazy. But he goes to go get this toy at the shop. He called ahead, and the guy was supposed to hold it for him. But when he gets there, there's a guy, a customer leaving with a box, and he tells the owner, "Hey, I called ahead. Do you have it?" And he said, "Nope, just gave that guy the last one." And he was like, "Hey, but I called ahead." And the guy's like, "Well, too bad. It's the holidays. That's the way it goes." So Seth Green is freaking out. He doesn't know what to do. So he goes up to this guy who got the last toy, and he begs him to let him buy it from him. But the guy won't let him. And he's like, "Too bad. You should have gotten here earlier." So in freaking out, Seth Green kills the guy and then takes the box and goes home. So he goes home with the gift and is greeted by his wife, Sarah, played by Claire Grant, who is complaining that her boss didn't give her the Christmas bonus that she was supposed to get. Eventually, he tries on this toy, and he starts seeing like his own like erotic fantasies and stuff. But eventually, that after further use, he starts seeing himself murder the guy, and his wife discovers it and sees it too, but she's cool with it. And then one day he comes home after his wife was using it, and he puts it on to see what his wife was viewing about herself. This is definitely one of the better stories. It's a bit hokey and humorous, but it's pretty cool. It got great pacing. The acting is pretty good, and there's points where you'll laugh, and discover the discovery at the end is pretty good too. And then the final story is New Year's Eve, again written by Kevin Kolsch and Dennis Widmeyer, but this time directed by Adam Egypt Mortimer, who wrote and directed Some Kind of Hate. So the story is about this guy named Reggie, played by Andrew Bowen, who's a very disturbed individual. You get the sense he's like a serial killer, like he meets girls on dating websites and then eventually kills them. Then the story turns to a young woman named Jean, played by Lorenza Izzo from Green Inferno and Knock Knock. You could tell she's like lonely, and she's like eating ice cream in a robe, watching TV, looking through this dating website, and she finds Reggie on there, who's gets a 98% approval rating with her. So she sets up a date with him. So they go out on this date. They're out having dinner, and it's a really awkward date. But eventually, she invites him back to her place to watch the ball drop. And at her place, he discovers why they have a 98% approval rating. I really liked the idea of this story. I liked the way it was directed. I liked the way it was acted. It was humorous. It was fun. Um, and it was just a great concept in general. But again, my issue with this one was that it was just a little too short. Uh, when it gets to like the meat of the story, it ends too quickly. You kind of wish there was more to it. But all in all, it was pretty good, and a very interesting story. So that's it. That's all the stories in Holidays. Altogether, I love this movie. It's really good. All the stories are good, but like as I've explained, that they're not all great. But it's a good range of horror, from creepy to humorous to weird. I like anthologies for that, because you get different like variations of stories. It's not always the same feel throughout the whole movie. So all the directors did a good job. The stories are great. I definitely recommend this. It's on Netflix right now, so watch it before it goes away, and enjoy. Let me know what you think in the comments. All right, thanks for watching.